All right, everybody, welcome back. So what I wanted to do, I like to show you guys different artists that are in the industry. A lot of these artists are people I know. Or, for example, with this Jennifer, let me start all over because I can't even talk. I don't know, gentleman and friend. That was Jennifer. Did you get it? That's gentleman and friend together. So let me start over. I like to show you guys artists, like to, give you an example of people that either were my friends or teachers. And this time I've showed you guys Michael Spooner. We've talked a little bit. We've showed you some Rob Rupel. What I'd like to also do is today I want to introduce you to Pat. So Pat actually was one of my former students, okay? And he did really well, and he's worked his way up into a position as a designer working in environments in background design. He's over at Disney TV right now, and I know he's been at other places too. But I had Pat back in the day as a student, actually online at CGMA, which wasn't even here at Fullerton College, but it was online. Hopefully in the next 6 months to a year, we'll have a bunch of online classes here too, which is pretty cool. But it was really cool knowing someone who was online. And Pat was in my class in environment sketching, which wasn't the perspective class, but environments. And he really worked hard. He battled his, up and downs. And what he ended up doing is, all that battling, all that dedication, and all that practice led to his ability to be able to draw and visualize very quick and very expedited from a design standpoint, meaning that you're not always relying on reference or still lifes to produce your work, right? So I just like showing his work because it's cool. You get to see an example of somebody else who works in the industry. And since this is perspective class, look at this. Downshot spiral staircase. Ooh, right? And we're going to cover that. And what's funny is when we get to that section, it's like the last section of this whole class. Everyone's like, when are you ever going to have to draw a downshot spiral? And I'm like, okay, here's an example. This was an illustration done, by Pat for a children's book. So, there's a perfect example of that. So, one of the cool things about Pat, too, is not only is he just a great designer and as a student he listened and did his work, but he's also really personable guy. He's easy to talk to. He's very friendly. And now, because of that, he was even offered the job. So he started at CGMA. That's where I was teaching on the side while working. And then they contacted me, a couple other people. I wasn't available. Someone referred Pat. And now Pat's the teacher at CGMA teaching the class where he had started many years ago. So to me, that's a cool circle. Do you see that circle? That we're all beginners and we start and we go through this evolutionary process and then we end up somehow you gain enough knowledge to where you become a teacher of some kind, So it's really cool for me to get to show these because what I want you guys to be doing is looking at some of the work and realizing, hey, that's in 1 point, that's in 2 point, that's a 2 point down shot, that's a spiral staircase. Because that's all the basics and the foundation that exists in this work is do you have that ability from out of your noggin to quickly be able to draw and design something? Yes, David?
What's his last name?
His last name is Macronet. It's Marco, like Marco, and then Nett. Okay, so you can look him up as Pat Macronet Portfolio. Really talented guy. And what's really cool too is you'll notice how he's also using tone inside part of his environment. So real quick, I know we haven't really talked about this, but what perspective is this? It's 2 point perspective, that's right. It's us looking down, the horizon line's very high. We've talked a little bit about horizon lines and their placement, so we're looking down. And the secret to this it's not about being a good draftsman, it's about understanding how to construct these elements out of basic cubes. Some of you are going to be battling that over this project, and then the next project will be a 2 point assignment, right? Figuring out where does my vanishing point go? How do I make my cubes? How do I put detail on top of my cubes? And then also, with part of that, it just happens, a next phase to some of this is understanding composition. What about that? What perspective is that? That's right. That's a nice 1 point. Okay. Is it completely dead center in the middle? No. Which side does it dominate more when you look at it? you have a little bit more, the vanishing point is over to the left more, so the right side dominates a little bit more. It's a larger amount of information. Could you apply that into a warehouse? Could you have a warehouse that has that type of ceiling with little owl guards around there? I'm sorry? I can barely hear you muffled. Is that the same? Oh, it sort of looks like it. Either way, I don't care if it is or not. It's for Sophia's First, which is a TV show he's been working on, but at Disney. But I think that's absolutely stunning. I love the design. It's simple. It's easy. Look at that one. How about that? We talk a little bit about, telling some of you guys some of your work is dead center. There's nothing wrong with dead center, especially when it's particular to a particular aspect of storytelling. Remember, 1-point perspective and what it conveys. Power, wealth. This is the inside of a very large, dungeon shape. There's something important about this location, so it's dead centered in 1 point. Also, look at these doors here. Look at that crest above there. All this area is being emphasized in that drawing, right? That's just good old-fashioned. So why am I showing you this? Part of what you're doing in drawing eventually leads to the world of design. And I haven't really mentioned that. This is not a design class, but I have to start talking about groupings. I have to talk about variations. I have to get you to understand foreground, midground, background. I have to get you to think about how you can have a warehouse in 1 point, but you can still have things turned to be in 2 point, right? You can have these other elements because these are parts of good design. And good design is what conveys a lot to the viewer. So you just don't sit there and do a drawing and crank it out and go, here's my 1 point perspective. We get to this point where the meetings I had this morning with a couple of students is, hey, I'm looking at my work and I'm analyzing it, and I realize that my last drawing was better than my second drawing. Well, that's what we want you to do. We want you to look at your work. We want you to analyze it. We want you to use your little computer. We want you to talk to your neighbor and figure out what are weak points, what are strong points, what are things that you can adjust. And look at right here. Here are thumbnails. Okay? So what you're doing in this class, thumbnailing out an assignment, here are industry-based thumbnails that he's doing on a production. There's nothing wrong with doing that. You're conveying an idea in a quick sketch format to your boss, who might be a director, might be a layout supervisor, might even be a producer, might be the writer of the show. But it's someone who's above you, and you need to imply your intent on how you think to best design this world or lay it out. Okay, that's why we used to call this position layout, but then it's also been called background design as well. Okay, so I just thought I'd show you Pat because I think he has really nice work. He has a good variety of work. He has a lot of cool drawings. I like what he's doing with his perspective, how he's changing stuff up. He's moving the horizon lines around. He's changing the subject matter, different size. What about this? What perspective is that? 2 point, that's right. This is actually going to be very similar to our next assignment. Okay, 2 point perspective, right? There's this little rough. There's another angle. So if this was more of an environment design class, I might have you even take a location and draw it from different angles, which you noticed in the beginning when I showed you the exterior of that, the castle. You had it from a high angle and then a low side angle. Those are beautiful drawings. What about that? What perspective is that? That's 1 point. And that's why when I hear a student go, I don't like doing 1 point because it's not as fun as 2 point. And then I come back and say, it's not the drawing that's boring, it's you that's boring, right? Have fun with it. That's a great drawing. In fact, to give homage, he's doing some things in here with supports from an old designer whose name is Gustav Tenegrin, who was the environment artist for Pinocchio. So if you go look at Pinocchio, you'll see how Tenegrin was creating these nice support beams with these nice curves in them. So you didn't end up having all these hard-edged 90s inside the drawing. Okay? Tenegrin. T-E. Here, I'll pull them up real quick just since we happen to be talking about them. It's good to know. It's good information, right? Go to Google and very Gustav Tenegrin. Or it's Gustav with a I believe, with the F. And if we were to click on him, and let's click images here, and if we were to pull up,
He also designed that Pinocchio restaurant at Disneyland.
yeah, when he was at Disney, he worked in animation and also worked in the Imagineering and theme park genre as well. So when you go through some of these worlds and these environments that he drew, there's certain ways that he handled like edges, and the way he handled like beams, and the way he put these like supports and wood, and see these little undermount things. They're almost like little round edges on top of everything that give a nice organic flow and feel to parts of the drawing. Okay? These curves in here, these thick pieces of wood, see these angled supports. So he had a great way of doing that, which, you know, some of you might not have ever heard of him, but if you were to look in some of the old Disney books and you look at the way that he laid out part of the story, this is where we're heading with this. This is why we need to know perspective, is you need to be able to draw stuff like this out of your imagination and have it look, you know, appropriate and fitting to what is actually taking place. Look at these little, see them right there? Little side supports, these like sort of, they're like, I almost think of it as, I know it doesn't sound right, but it's like meaty little details that add visual weight to a drawing and anchor and stability, right? So some of you guys are going to, today I'm going to talk a little bit about elements to add into your warehouse, right? So maybe you have a support beam and you remember looking at Gustav Tanegren and you decide to come down, you just had a straight beam. So maybe you bring that beam into a larger base of a beam where it's something that's weighted, that's anchoring it to the ground, right? Or maybe you have some type of an arch support, you know, and you have more of a support like this. Maybe it's made out of, you know, it's a warehouse and there's old wood beams that go across it. You have some of that flexibility. But anyway, that's Gustav Tanegren. He was amazing, okay? So back over here, oops, just showing you a little bit more work from Pat. Absolute fantastic work here, right? Yeah, really talented guy. And like I said, super nice. What perspective is that in? That's one point. That's right. It's 1 point view. And then when we get towards us in the middle ground, he banks off to the left. And you can tell that all these are horizontal. And then even this, it looks like it's cheated, but that's not a cube. That is a pentagon-shaped object. Actually, hexagon, it's six-sided because there's three sides facing towards us, which means there'd be three on the back. Oh, and look, and what do we have there again? More stairs. So and later on we'll talk about how to figure out stairs in perspective and how to draw them. Okay. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you that because I think it's cool to come in and show you guys some of these different worlds that artists are creating, right? So that way your little imagination can run wild and you have something to look up to. Because wouldn't that, and this has happened, one day someone in this classroom might be on a show and be like, hey, how you doing? And the guy will be like, hey, I'm Pat. And you're like, and he's like, Pat Marquette. And you're like, oh my God, it's Pat. Phil talked about you in class. And then he'll be like, I remember Phil. He was my teacher. He got me my first freelance job. And he helped me get in the industry, right? That's how things work. Okay. Cool. Anyway. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I quickly wanted to mention this. I already put this up on YouTube. And if you come over here, I posted this already. On our blog, right down here, if you click this link right here, I highlighted it in red. If you click that link, this is a demo that I did last night in my other class. So what I did in the beginning is that's a thumbnail that the student had. And it was just sort of a tiny thumbnail. So what I was trying to demo on and explain was one of the topics for today, which is don't be afraid to expand out your thumbnail. There's nothing wrong with going double frame wide, doing like a pan shot. There's nothing wrong with going even vertical on it, as long as it makes sense. The one no we don't want to do is we don't want to, I'm talking on top of myself, right? But one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to design in a square. That's the golden rule. Okay, so here the student did this, and when you guys are looking at this, can any of you see what my concern and one of the problems might be? Actually, the clutter's not bad. We're dealing with groupings, but you know, you're on it, John. It's tight. We were talking a little bit about foreground, midground, and background. What's inside this piece right now? It's all what, John? It's all midground and background. There's no foreground in it. So my point to the student was we need to convey a little bit more depth. So lesson number 1 for you guys is when you're drawing, you're getting an idea out on paper. It's really common to have to reframe. To reframe, you just take out your drawing and add a little bit of paper around it. And there's a couple ways you can do that. You guys are drawing traditionally. Number one of my favorite ways, is you could just cut out the image and glue it down on another piece of paper. If you don't want to do that and you don't have glue, you can tape it down and just draw on top of the tape. That works. Another way that you can do it is this, is you can go to, and if this is offending you because it might cost $20, I think it is worth your education as a student. If you go to Amazon, you could pick up a very thin, portable, little mini USB powered light table for $20. Okay, and this is literally that thin. It is like a quarter of an inch. Look at the beast in the back of the room. Look, that thing's like 18 inches thick right there. Okay, with lights that'll burn through your retina, right? The new ones are little thin LEDs, and they're portable. They charge on USB. We have USB at the stations here. There's some plugs in the back there, and you can pull it out when you need it, put a piece of paper on top of another paper, or as Sydney recommended, the poor man's light table, which I've used many a times, is just holding your image up to a window and having light come through it. However, though, we don't have many windows in here. Okay, so any of those things would work. So those are the ways that you can draw on top. Now, what I was able to do was take the student's work and go digital with it. So the first thing I did is I expanded out the frame past the thumbnail, and I pulled the frame out. And the reason why I pulled it out to this distance, as I sort of eyeballed it, is now I have the ability to add in a tremendous amount of foreground elements, and that's exactly what I did. So during part of this demo, I started adding in, I talked about strengths of the room that already existed, like the support beams, and how I'm going to add in, you know, some boxes, other beams on the front, blah, 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 blah. And as I go through this, and then I added in a window over there. So there's a reason why we always want to add in a window or a lantern or something, is a lot of students forget you have sometimes, depending on what level you're on, you have to light these. Or another artist will paint them. If you don't have windows or doors or lanterns or some type of, or candles or light sources, it makes it really impossible to light the room, okay? One option for this that I told the student in class is the door could actually be right in front of us. We can't see it. And if the door were to open, imagine a light going like this, from this angle, from here, going across there. Does that make sense? There could be a light behind us, a door would open, and the light would come in at an angle instead of being symmetrical. That would be one option. Anyway, and here's what the end result was. Actually, I don't know if I put it up on the video, but I put it on the thumbnail. Uh-oh. So that was the end result, and then I put some tone under it, but I forgot to put it in the demo, right? So you see how I got to that part. So basically, that's what I'm going to do today, and try to encourage you guys is draw over some of your stuff to try to get you to realize that what you put down on paper is not always your finished outcome, but it's rather a dedicated starting point. Okay, so I have right now here lined up already a couple images here. Okay, so whose were these with the little red guys? Okay, all right. So Connie, these are yours, right? Okay, so what I wanted to show is, because when I'm looking at these, so she had 3 that I took a picture of. Here was one that is somewhat similar to this particular view. Do you see that? Okay. Hold on, let me put this into painting view. I don't know what view it's in right now. There it goes. Okay, it's a little bit easier to see, and I can enlarge on this. So this view works. The horizon line's fine. Everything's okay. Now, the vanishing point is, we see a little bit more of the left side, right? So I think that drawing is coming across very well. And then let's take a look at, there's another view here where she had, this view is what I would call more left side dominant, right? You have a lot of stuff on the left, nothing on the right. So if I were to draw on this, that's why I take these pictures real quick, is I'm going to come over here and quickly, are my brushes in here? Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so one of the things I noticed about this image is that everything was very left side dominant. So, but does that mean that it's a bad image? No, it's actually a really good design, and all we have to do on part of this is just expand the frame out. So if I were to go, let me go to canvas size here, and I'm going to add some width here. I'm going to pull it back to about 36, and then I add a little bit more, and let me just fill it with some brown paper real quick. Oh, I hate this version. Okay, I'm not liking the way the new Photoshop is. I like the other one. And okay, so I filled the paper. Let me just add another layer here. Let me drag over to the other side, and I'm just going to fill it with like this brown color. There. So on this image, it's really easy to just come over here, and as soon as I saw this, I just wanted to change over and just draw a line coming this way, and actually see how she dominated the left side. What if I keep the vanishing point there and I just pull out her frame like all the way to here? And I'm just going to briefly look. Imagine if I had foreground in here, and then Connie, you could think of something that you might put in there. There might be, warehouse based part of that. Something could be filled there. We could have support beams here. We can have, now another thing that's happening is we're so low on this shot, we can't see the ceiling. So Connie, if you raise this up just a teeny bit more, and then if you ended your ceiling at about here, okay, which would actually might even be higher, but let's just pretend the ceiling starts there. When we can see a ceiling, it adds a tremendous amount of depth inside a piece. So if I were to do this right now and bring these lines sort of over, maybe I even decide to end my wall right there. Do you see already how much depth I added to the piece by being able to see the ceiling in there? So that was a good design. All I have to do is pull out the frame a little bit. Actually, I might even now decide to frame a little bit higher because I really like those ceiling beams coming in there, right? So now I can take what she did, frame it out, and I already have a much stronger composition based off of what she already started. I mean, even bring that wall over. Maybe I end it about here. There. So can you see what I did, how I added to that? Can you already see the change in composition? So a lot of you, I guess part of today's lesson is don't give up. Don't get frustrated on a drawing that you're doing. Take a break from it, come back, and then think about reframing, think about moving. So before in her composition, she had this. She had the vanishing point here, and it was a left-hand side dominant composition. All I did now was raise this, bring this out, and then the VP is still over, but I added all this distance to here and here, so now I made it a right side dominant composition. It doesn't matter, it just allows her to fill up more of the space inside there. Connie, you have any questions on this? No? Okay, good work. Okay, now, these are two other sketches that she had, and let me show you my idea on here and see if this explains and works. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me see which one to do. Let's try this one. Image, canvas size. Let me pull out the canvas again. Let's go to 38. Okay, and then 1 second. Let me delete that. Try to get that same color of paper the best I can. Now, actually, hold on. I might have done it the wrong way. It's all right. Canvas size. We'll go back so we have more room. All right, so after I fill this right here, all right, so when I saw this drawing, this happens sometimes where I notice the relationships of the vanishing points being close. And this vanishing point here is very similar to the vanishing point in here. So one of my ideas is what if I take this, take that image and flip it horizontally, like that. And you see where her vanishing point is. Let me draw it on there so you can see it. Her vanishing point right now is right here in the middle. See it right there? Okay. Her vanishing point here is right about there on this other image. So what I could do is, what if I deleted part of this? And if I bring that over and get it to about the same vanishing point, and I'm going to rotate it, I'm going to enlarge it a little bit more. See what I just did? I just took something she had. I saw it by looking at it, and I just flipped it over in the other view. And what does she have now? She has a whole nother wide angle room based off the original drawing that she did. In fact, if I wanted to, I could even come back over here to this. That's all really cool stuff. Copy that, add my other image in there, deselect, paste this, bring that layer up on, and I'm just, now you're like, well, it's not in the same perspective. I know you can distort it, seeing if I get it a little bit like that, if I adjust the angle of it a little bit and mess with it. But I could draw over that now, and you see how she has a new composition? What is with all these stupid, why do they keep, I hate Windows 10 with an ultimate passion. I'm ready to go find where, what's his name, douchebag lives and just burn down the whole building, okay? Because it's so unfriendly. It's just nothing but pop-ups. Okay, so look at the difference right there. That's a simple, that's a great little composition. You see it already working? It's just moving something around. So sometimes don't be afraid to look at something you did and think about merging it back and forth. Simple and it's easy. Okay? All right, so let me close that. And let me close that one. And then let me close this one. All right. Here's another composition that's working very well from another student. Okay? Let me just crop it in here and rotate a little bit. So actually deselect and transform. Let's rotate a little bit more that way. So we square it up, and aha. Okay. Edit, and let's crop that guy. Where's crop? I have a hotkey for it, and I always forget where it is. Okay, let's not crop it, because I don't know where it is. In there, let's just dive in here. So on this, the perspective's already there, right? There's a lot of information that's already taken care of. It's just an issue of me coming into the drawing and adding little details or adding little things. So one of the first things I saw as soon as I looked at this is I really like this really simple stack of boxes right in here. And some of you forget that a lot of times in art and drawing, simplicity is the answer. Getting super complicated is not the answer. Learning how to simplify, bring things into groupings, visual reads. So I looked at this and gosh, let me just do it. Let me just do it with a lasso tool really quick here. I just want to take these boxes here and I'm going to redraw them and put them in the front. But since it's Photoshop, I'm just going to save a little time and I'm going to copy that. Okay. It's like a chime at Starbucks or something. Your coffee is now ready. Oops, I didn't mean to flip that. Imagine these boxes here in the foreground, like that. Okay. Jaime, do you have a question, sir? Okay, bring it on in. Come on in. You can put it down. It's for Frank's class, so we're fine with that. All right. Okay, so I'm just showing you that really quick because I want you to see how the boxes are fitting in there. So now that I have that in, I could come back and it just gives me a good idea, like why not? Just come back over here and I'll just sketch a couple boxes. I'll put one like this in the foreground. bring it down a little bit. Maybe end it about here, come across to there. And maybe I bring it out about there again. Maybe I end this one a little bit earlier so I could see it sort of where it might hit part of the floor, right? It's nice to anchor things. It helps you visually see what's happening. And then maybe for another cool little element, and there's also a box underneath there, right? So I'm going to draw part of that box. It might be over there. And then I'm just going to come over here and put like some type of large package that's here on the side. Okay, like that. So now I have a nice little foreground element over there. Okay, so how do I finish up the room? Well, let's talk about what if we did, he already has some cool girders in here that are starting to work. So what if I come into these girders and I give them thickness? So if I come across here, come across that one, and then I put a beam going up like this. So now I get this beam, and make sure that girder is matching up there, and it's matching here. Okay, and then I'm gonna skip this other girder right here because it would be too close. Let me go to the one that comes right after it. So it is important to try to match up girders to your side posts. So if that's a side post of support, because I noticed some people were only drawing one side of it, come over and try to make sure it matches to the other one. So this is pretty close at matching. And you'll notice I tilted the line a little bit. That's all right to tilt lines just a teeny bit, because that's just part of visual weight, things settling in rooms. Objects don't always stay 100%, flush all the time, right? And then I might come into part of this and then draw the inside of those supports, like so. Like that. Come back over here. So what I'm basically doing right now is I'm just starting to detail part of the room. I'm adding little elements. I added the girder. I might come in here. I want another foreground over here. So what if I come back here and I just stay simple? What if I throw another box coming in? Actually, you know what? I just had another idea. Because I did want to talk about this today, about levels. What if on the side right here, I put a walkway that comes down like that? And what if I put stairs coming down the side? And maybe there's a railing. So if I come over here, what if I throw a railing in there? And then I bring that railing back this way. I throw another part of the railing there. I throw the other railing edge here. I'm going to measure the top, make sure I know where to cut it off. It's right about there. Uh-oh, coffee's ready at Starbucks. I don't know why it does that all the time. Touches off. So now I'm drawing the railing in the back there, and then I'm going to draw that railing going back here. Right? There. So there I have, see, it looks like a walkway, elevated. So if I want to draw stairs, in 1 point perspective, stairs are really easy. If you just draw the stairs going down, they're equal portions. So all I have to do is do this. Actually, the easiest way is to draw a wedge. So if I come over here and draw a line down to where this ends here, and if I draw a line over this way, and then I just draw the wedge shape like that and there, then I come in there and then I just figure out how it drops. So what I mean by that is I bring a stair out there, then it drops. And I bring a stair out the same distance, I drop it. And actually what you're doing, you're creating a pattern that if you were to draw another line in here like this, it'll repeat the same pattern. So you just draw the stair there, 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 there. And let's say I end it right about there. I'm going to cheat it, and then I'll end my stairs here and bring it back like that. See that? So I have the base of the stairs, and then I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to recede that line back that way, and then we're going to connect there. Same thing here. I come down here, and now it's just connecting a bunch of lines to finish the stairs. All right? And what I've done is I've now added a secondary platform inside that structure, which makes it a little bit more interesting. It changes the composition up a little bit more. That's it. I'm keeping everything that was already existent in here and just adding a couple other things. Oops, a little bit of slip there, that's all right. Uh-oh, my ruler slipped on that big time. There, I need to get this other stair coming in about there. Okay. All right, so now I have that. So what if the stairs come down? Why not pull out the frame a teeny bit? Do you see how the frame right now cuts off that bottom stair? So what if I come over and I say, hey, I'm going to reframe now to about right here. In fact, you know what? Let me do that in black. It might be a little bit easier to see. So if I come into his image, I can reframe about right there. And I like that little foreground element. If I put that in there, and I put that there. So I just pulled out the frame just a teeny bit. The stairs do a lot. And now here's something also that some of you, I noticed some of you were busy doing the boxes. What about walkways? In a lot of factories, they have like a safe, or in a lot of warehouses, especially like UPS, Costco, they have safe areas to walk. So what I could do, if I go back to my blue, is where those stairs come down, what if I were to draw like a little safe area? So I do this. Imagine if this was taped, and the tape comes to here, then the tape banks over here and goes to the left-hand side, right? And now, if I keep going with that line to right here, what's going to happen? I hit the edge of the stair, and what do we call that? Tangency. Tangencies are not good. And I have two options on a tangency. You change the other item affecting the tangency, which means I'd have to redraw the staircase, which I don't want to do. Okay. The other option is you completely overlap the other one, if it's possible. That isn't a possibility here. Or I just change my line. So what I'm going to do is just change my line. I'm going to make my pathway go down this way. And maybe when it gets to here, I might decide to come in and just throw a door between these little shelf areas. And maybe this is actually wall back here, like that. And then the walkway would start right there and come out. Right here would come out to about there. I get that little path there. And I'm going to bring the pathway back this way. Now that might be a light tangency, but you know, if you just get it at the right angle, and here, let me adjust it. I'm going to pull it a little bit more over to the side. Try not to hit it. I would try to make it a little bit lighter. There, so I have a little walkway there, and then maybe I decide to make my, actually, sorry, it's me being picky. I still don't like that. I want to go make it wider. Let's pull it out to here. There. That represents the shape more. And what I might do now to make the walkway look a little bit different, I'm going to eyeball and do proportional division, right? And I'm going to put in some little etches here, right? And so when I get up here, I have that. I might have one about there. And that looks pretty cool. You see I have this pathway now that's leading me into the back. Okay, so let's just talk about, and then I was talking to the student too about other details, right? So I have some pretty good shapes already in my foreground now, right? I added in that cool walkway. I have some wood, some other support beams that are there. I have these packages here. So maybe let's now address a little bit of the midground in here. What about, there's these storage shelves in here, right? So I can go into some of those storage shelves and put some other detail in there. So I could come in here and make sure, I'm going to make sure sometimes when you guys draw a shelf, you get a little bit of slip on the ruler, which is okay. So that's, the shelf is going to be about that line going back, okay? And then when I get above, I'm going to be able to see under the back of the shelf like that. Does that make sense? The shelf's going to go back. So here's a little note to shelves. Don't put too many small little intricacies in there. If you put all these small little things, the eye catches too much detail, so you just need to simplify it. So I just come over here and I put what looks like a box. And I make the box go this way. I stop it, I end it. Then maybe I put, oops, slip. Maybe I put a little bit bigger box going that way. That's the support of the shelf. I need to decide whether or not I can see through the shelves or not. If I could see through the shelf, then I could bring that box to there. If it's just, you know, an angle support, then I can bring that box over that one, and I can have that box continue like that. See that? I just filled that with some simple detail. Perhaps on this one, instead of doing square boxes, maybe I change it up a little bit. Maybe I come in here and I sketch something that might look a little bit more like a cylinder. So maybe I have like a square box in the front that's somewhat low, like that. And then maybe I come here and I make a little rounded top to that. Okay, but keep it simple. And then maybe I come over here and where that box ends, maybe there's another large box in front of it. It goes that way. And then maybe I was going to draw a box there. Maybe here I'd do something sideways. Why not? Things are stacked up on top of each other all the time. So those are just little details. Do you see how that shelf's already filling? I can leave the other information that's in there. I could come down here and do the same thing to the bottom. So right now I'm just going to quickly draw what would be like maybe like just quick silhouettes of what could be other boxes down there. But here I'm going to be able to see on top of these. Why? Because it's underneath my horizon line. Okay? There. So there I put a couple other boxes. And then maybe to give it some rest, I don't put any boxes here, here, or here. I let that be because an important part of detailing up an object or an environment or a character is having opposites, meaning that if you have an area of detail, you have to have unbalance, you have to have an area of rest after it. Then you have another little area of detail after that. So that's pretty good right now. Let's maybe I look at the back of the warehouse. So maybe I come back here. Let's say if that's the back there, what if I put a large center support beam, like right over about right here? And what if I come in here and I put what looks like a large roll-up door? And we always put frames around everything. Frames are really important. In life, you don't see anything without frames. Look at that dry erase board. There's a frame on it. Look at the projector map. There's a frame on it. There's a frame. Look at the bottom of the floor. Whenever a floor meets carpet, there's what we call wall edging. There's a frame on it. And there's even a frame on Eddie's face, his glasses. No. So there's frames everywhere, right? There's always a frame on when two objects meet each other. There's usually a piece of linear detail in between to separate them, because without that, things would look boring. Okay? So here, and then when you draw a door, a little secret to a door or window is to recess it. Pull it back so it'll give it thickness like there's a wall above it. And then I'm going to come back and just throw a couple lines going across so it looks like a little roll-up door in the back. So it's a large roll-up door for a factory. This right here is going to be a new support beam. I'm going to come over to the vanishing point. I'm going to draw lines coming this way. This way I'm going to go up with my support beam right there. And then when it hits here, it's going to go that way. I'm going to come down there, get that other line in there, get the other line coming this way, like so. So now I have a support beam there, and maybe over here, if I were to transfer the scale, okay, remember I was talking about this in class? Oops. If I were to transfer the scale of this door right here, how do I find that back there? Easy, right? So thank God for Photoshop. I can just create another layer. And it's going to take me 2 seconds to just take that door there, bring it to that wall. And once I get it to that wall, I know it's exactly that high. So now, by looking at that, I know that's just about 1/4 of an inch. I can turn that off, come back to my drawing layer, switch back to my pen, and I know a door back here and a light frame is going to be about right there. Make sense? Put a little handle on it, a little square thing, little kick plate. That's my door. And then maybe I decide to come over here and put another frame. And then I'm going to put some type of window detail. So I do that. I recess it in a little bit. And then I looked at my reference. Factory windows, warehouse windows tend to be large pieces of plated glass with little details that go in it. So at this point, you see how I've added to the room. What else can I add in here to offset it still? What about rope hanging down? What, Rosie, what were you going to suggest?
Fire alarm.
No, that's fine. I could come over here and I could put a little, that's a detail. I could come over here and we have these, in fact, we have one in this room somewhere. There it is, little flashing gizmo right there.
Yeah.
So I come over here, I draw a little box in one point. I put this round little thing here and a little box there. There, that's the fire alarm now. What about in part of this warehouse, maybe coming off this wall, maybe on the back wall there, maybe there's an air conditioning vent. Okay, is that what you're going to say? Yeah. Well, one thing I was going to say, which I haven't even done yet, that a lot of students forget, you do all the detail down below and you forget what's up above. Yeah. Venting, all the air conditioning duct and venting. Usually go to Costco and look up, it's all vents and ducts up above. So ducting, not ducks like quack quack ducks, but ducting. So if I wanted to do that, look, why not? I could cheat this and I could raise the ceiling up. See that? What if I raise the ceiling up a little bit higher like that? And I come over here and draw that ceiling being slightly elevated. Back over to the other side. There. Now I just raise the ceiling. When it goes like that, then I'm going to make the other cross beams going that way. Okay, and now I can go in there and throw some ducting in. I know you're like, how does he think of that? It's just over time, you just get used to filling stuff. So look, and that's cool putting that little double layer above there. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm not going to do round ducting because that can be really difficult, right? So let's just come over right about, where's a good spot? Here it gets a little busy. Here, I'm going to put a little square right in here. It hangs down a little bit. I'm going to put a little edge on it. And then I'm going to draw little vents going across. And then I'm going to bring that up to about there. When it hits here, I'm going to draw a dotted line for where the square would be. And then when I get that square, I'm just going to draw that ducting coming through the top here, like so. And then I'm going to erase the lines that it's overlapping. And I might even put a couple contour lines on it to help show the form. Oops. Gotta go back to brush. So if I do that, I show the little sections. There, I put a little piece of air conditioning ducting in there, right? So now I could put another little piece on the other side, right? Or maybe over here, I just say, because I live life on the edge, the art edge, right? What if I come over here and I just draw another large size duct? And so I know you're like, no, don't erase. Is my drawing under there? That's okay. I'm just erasing it a little bit. Now I have a cool overlapping shape. I have a larger duct, air conditioning vent there. And then I don't even see where it goes, but your eye sees it and puts the shapes together. That might come back over. There's a beam there, so that's fine. And maybe I come back over here. Let me run part of that vent. I'm going to tap into this vent here. I'm going to run it in the back right here through, oops. I want a straight line. There, I'm going to run it there. That hits right about there. Come up here. There'll be the bottom. That goes across this way. Maybe the top goes over to here. And then where that comes onto this other side. Sorry, I went past the line. I'm looking. What about right here? I put another vent. That's what air conditioning does, right? So now I've added some good other detail. I have little air conditioning spots in there. So do you see it coming alive now? I'm just adding little bits, little pieces, that's all. Okay? So another discussion I want to add to this, because I'm going to leave this one here and let the student add and fill up the rest here. But I'm going to turn these off really quick. And I just want to add a quick layer. And I want to talk about I still have some other drawings to go over today. I'm going to keep going over those, but I wanted to mention this real quick. I wanted to bring this subject matter up. Let me sketch in 3 cubes real quick. Actually, I'll sketch in 1 and I'll copy and paste it. So I'm going to do this in like a light blue because I was having a discussion with a student today about detail. And one of the discussions was, how do I detail up an object, or what kind of detail can I put in? And the analogy I really like to use, I can't erase, hold on. Let me just draw it. I can't erase right now, that's fine. One sec. Okay, so we have 3 different cubes, right? So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about how I can change those cubes into different objects. Let me put a white background underneath those so when I drop down the line. Uh-oh. Okay, so, gosh darn it, I did it again. Sorry. Perfect. So now when I drop this opacity down, you won't see. So let's say I have 3 light cubes right here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to draw on top of them, and let's talk about how we could decorate all 3 of those to be different. So if I want to make one look like a box, okay, so we just think of boxes that we get. I love Amazon and do a lot of ordering when I know I probably shouldn't. Okay, but so for one box, I might come over here and run a little bit of tape down the side, like so. Try to get a thick and thin line or whatever. Maybe the tape comes there. And then usually when you have tape over the box, you can still see the flap. Does that make sense? Between, so I just do this. I do that. Maybe your box is lightly damaged, right? So I'm going over this because some of you are ready to go into a detail stage of your drawing. And when we start adding some details, once your rough is sort of finished, you're going to have to figure out, how do I go back on top of my shapes so I draw? So what if I have that box and then maybe it was sent to me by somebody and there's a little post-it sign here, right? And maybe, like I said, those little flaps. Maybe I can see the little flaps right in there between the tape. In fact, maybe the tape, maybe there's 2 layers of tape. Maybe the tape comes over here and drops. And it's taped like this. And then there's a second layer of tape down underneath, like that. What if my box was sent from overseas and there's a label on it that says, like, you know, be careful, or ship approved. So that's it. That's a box. It's labeled. See that? That's how I detailed that box. So now let's go to the next box and take a look. So on this box, what if I turn this box into a wood crate? I still have the shape. So what I'm getting at here is, one of the metaphors I use all the time is, when you bake a cake, you have the structure of the cake. We come back on top of the cake and we add all our detail. We're adding that to the shape and form. So now on this, to do a wooden crate, I already know offhand that I'm going to have, because I've done about 1 million wooden crates before. So I do my edges and I put little angles on them like this. It's quick and easy. I get to here. They're like 2 little pieces of wood cut. Okay? So wood crates take a couple more minutes. Now, inside your environment, do you think you should do everything as a wood crate because you really like wood crates? No. Why would you not want to do everything as a wood crate? Yeah, you need variety. You need to change it up a little bit. Now, on a wood crate, you can see the inside lip here. So I can come over here, because that's usually a piece of wood. I can see that little lip, and that right there, people, is really important to getting a little bit of what I call little edge details. Seeing that little lip makes it feel like it's in perspective, okay? So really quick, give me 1 minute. I'm going to come over and do the same thing here. I'm just doing this freehand really fast. If you want to use your ruler, that's fine. Sometimes I use my ruler, and then I am purposely pulling my ruler away and sway the line like I just did. Here I'm using the ruler, and then I pull it away and do it a little freehand. That way all my lines don't look super stiff. Does that make sense? Okay, there. So I get that in. Oops. That should connect about there. I'm going to see that little lip in there. I come here, draw that other little lip there. Let me do the top real fast. This takes a little bit more time because of that, but here's the best part now. You put a couple lines in here that go a little crooked. See how it looks like wood? It's a wood crate. It's magic. And if you wanted to, you can even put a little nail right there, but if you put a nail, you have to understand if your rise line's up here, you're going to see the top of that nail like that. Don't put a nail in when your rise line's up here and do this. That's not in correct perspective, right? Right, so think about that if you put the nail in. Or maybe it's just a little rounded like nail head like that. You can put that little detail if you want. And then the same thing here, I'm going to throw a line down there, put another line in here, another little line there. And then here I'm going to go the length of the box, let's say. There, so there's my wood crate, right? Feels like a crate. So now this next one, maybe you want to do something a little bit different. Let's do something a little bit more sci-fi. So what I'm going to do, one of the secrets for sci-fi stuff is if I come down, and you ever heard the expression rubberized? So there's actually a rating. I have actually my cell phone case here. There's actually a rating for consumer electronics, goods, backpacks. It's a military rating, and they use this term rubberized. The military M-spec rating means you can like drop it and bang it up. It has thick edges. This has a thick edge. So if I drop my phone, I can drop my phone from 6 feet, it won't break. So if I think about that, I can come in here and I could do that to this box and change it up a little bit. So if I come over here, and let's say I put little corner edges on here, like this, right? And then let me just draw the corner edges first. I'm going to measure that distance from that height there. I'm just going to eyeball it. Right now, I'll bring that up to about here. Bring that down to about there. Let me get this other edge here. So you can see I'm purposely drawing the ends a little bit outside of the ends of the box. Do you see that? Okay, like that. And now I'm going to come in, I'm going to rubberize it. I'm going to put these little chunky base bottoms on it. About 3 there, 1 there, 1 here, 1 there. Uh-oh. So here, I need to bring that over just a little bit. I need a little bit more room. And I have to make them a little bit more foreshortened because it's changing. There. So now I got that done. Now, what I'm going to do is another, like I was saying, the little secrets you can do to make something look very cool is what if I make it look like this box is, I can round the top and then make it look like it opens somehow. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, let me draw a line up here. As I get to the top here, I'm going to round a little bit of my edge. Come up here, I'm going to round this a little bit. Draw a line back over here. And come over and draw that line coming back here. And it rounds just a little. Around that, and then where I get this little edge line, come up here, I'm going to sort of put that edge line going across there, darken this line, okay? So now what I can do is I can put little intricate details in there I could cut out. Like I did a cutout in the wood box, I can put that into the case. But remember, trim detail is really important. So look, I could come over here, put a line going across, a little line like that. Now it looks like it has like a dedicated light rubber edge. Does that make sense? And that little rubber edge gives it a little bit of base weight to it. So then I might come over and go, hey, maybe this box, the top half opens. So if I draw a thick and thin line going this way, I put a little hinge right there. Okay, and I do the same thing. I come over here. All right. And if my box opens, I want to be able to carry it. So what I'm going to do is go right here and here. I'm going to put some type of little latch mechanism. That's right there. Or I just drew that really quickly, right? Just eyeballing it to get it in place. And then, hold on, I noticed that I made this line a little crooked and it's bugging me, so I'm going to fix it real quick. There. Oops, that's even more crooked. I need to get my glasses on, man. What is Phil drinking today? Okay, there. So now I have that. And then let's do that little inlay I just talked about. So what if I come over here? Now watch this. I do this all the time. I'm going to go to put an inlay. And I actually have a term that I use for this sometimes. Instead of doing one big square, I'm going to split that square into just a cool shape. So I'm just going to draw a line from here to here, from there to there, and then I'm going to erase that. I'm going to come back over here. Who said that? Ooh, right? Fancy, right? Look, I'm going to draw another line from there to there, there to there, and erase. Now it's starting to look like some type of cool Army military rubberized, you know, bomb, whatever case, right? So let me do the same thing here. I'm going to come over there, draw a line going across, bring that line to the edge, bring it down to here. Oops, bit of slip.
Hey Phil, I have a question.
Yeah.
What happens if you want to do like that kind of way in a cart, but it has like a living animal inside for the warehouse, like they store?
Don't do the animal.
No.
No, the animal.
Like for the cage, like you know, like the cage.
You can imply like you did. They did that actually. I knew someone who worked in special effects on Jurassic Park, and there are a lot of scenes where you hear the but they don't show the animal.
Yeah.
So you show the cage and you show the bars,
Yeah.
and then you can put a sign on it, like you know what the picture of the animal is,
Yeah.
and then you don't show the animal and you just hear the in the back, right? So they would do that all the time too. Another thing, side note, distraction, right? In Jurassic Park, when they step on the ground, every time they step, the weight of the dinosaur puts an imprint.
Yeah.
So you'll notice a lot of time there's like bushes and stuff in front of where the feet are hitting, so they don't have to show you the impression of the feet because that costs money. So they hide little things, right? So there's nothing wrong with you know finding ways to cheat things. So on this one, I'm not going to dissect it, but something else I do is I'm going to put another square inside it like a label, but I'm going to make the lower part thinner and then make this the upper part a little thicker like that. So it looks like it's some type of label. And then real quick, last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to sort of cross it real fast. I'm going to find the middle of that. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to put a real like wide base plate, sort of like this. I'm going to give it a little bit of thickness. Sorry, I keep shifting on my ruler. And now it's not working going that way. I have like that 1/16 gap on the Wacom pen. It has to be recalibrated. So anyway, I'm going to just get in here, put this real quick. And what I'm going to do is just take a circle right here, bring the circle up, put another circle here, do the same thing here, bring that circle up, and then just draw a line across from that corner to that corner and make a handle. Okay? And then that I'm going to put a line where this would come back in, and then put a little piece of metal that might overlap that like that. So it feels like it's some solidity holding it down. Does that make sense? There, that's it. So I went a little bit more detailed on that. Okay? You don't have to get into that level of detail, but I just wanted to show you the difference, that these are all cases. They're all boxes. There's just form there. It's just my cake. I'm putting new detail on top of it. So if some of you nail down your composition, you're ready to go and start detailing it, just have fun with it. Make something look like it's a large package. Don't write words on your package, because usually your writing sucks. Like if you write, from China or Singapore, it doesn't look right. Or if you write, made in Mexico, it doesn't look right. The other reason why we don't write that stuff on is that when you're working in shows and in concept art, if it goes to another country, they're not going to change the one environment. So we use pictures a lot. We don't use words, And words usually look horrible as an artist if you do it by hand, if it's not in Photoshop, okay? So there's just 3 quick little variants that I could do. And if I wanted to, I could do 3 more real quick. I could think of a box that's made out of like thicker cardboard. Actually, I had a package that came into my house and it had those huge staples in the side of it. Because like a heavy duty piece of, so I could have cardboard, we could see the edge of the cardboard on the other cardboard, and it had a wooden base holding it up, and it was a piece of a grill item, right? Grill item. And then it had these huge like metal staples in the side of it, holding the cardboard into the wood. That would totally work. So you don't have to go to, it's just figuring out how to design some of your elements and take it to the next step. Okay? All right, let me just pause the recorder real quick because I know we're at an hour. All right, so real quick, I wanted to add this on to the review because Mark had some really nice rough sketches, and there's a lot to say about really fun, rough, energetic sketches. So here's some of his ideas he had for his warehouse. One has this sort of nice structure to the left. It has this other device here. There's another one where he had like a tank and like some army vehicles. He had this one, which is like another couple elements. And I noticed a couple things when I was looking at his studies, is I noticed some of his vanishing points tended to be not on the middle, but his horizon lines tended to be around the middle. So that means he's a great candidate for taking an environment and flipping it over. So what I did is I took one of his environments here and I flipped over this. I took this thumbnail, left it, and I flipped that over and put it on top of it. So when I did that, that's sort of what we ended up with right there. So I was trying to take what he had here with like this large military vehicle stacked up, and then we come over here and he has a tank and another large military vehicle. So I know it's a little bit hard to see, but hopefully you can see it, because when I look at these things, I could see it. And that's one of your goals, is even if it's rough, there's nothing wrong with that. You just want to be able to see how you could reframe and make this image work. And I think that right there, there's a lot of visual weight in there that's really cool. Is you have nice grouping here of heavy objects. You have this tank or other vehicle that's right up in here on the ground. You have this large other item of stuff separating it. And it's just fun to me. There's something that's happening in that's just another possible solution. So that was one outcome that I wanted to show you really quick. And then what I did is I took another one that he had, this one, and I like that. And I flipped the other one over on the other side. And the idea I had here was he had this tank sort of like up here, and I like this. And then I thought, what if this looked like it was on like a shelf of some kind? Like it's up high. Now, what I'd like to do is, let me just erase it. I'd like to erase it about there. And the reason why is then I could see the angle of that shelf dipping down this support or whatever. Does that make sense? Hitting down to the ground. And then I took this element he had here in the foreground and I overlapped it. Like maybe there's, it's like some type of air conditioning vent that comes out, or upper element that's like the lights or whatever. And that, so this whole category right here is like an upper shelf system. And then the rest of everything else down below here is on a lower level. So that's one of the things I wanted to introduce you guys today, or mention to you, that you could think about doing in part of your designs, is outside of widening your frame, outside of flipping things over or moving them about, having things on different levels is always visually appealing and interesting. So look, if I bring that shelf there in the foreground, what if I come over here and put like another little shelf here? So maybe I need to put, some scale adjustments in here of maybe there's a railing that's going across part of this, and then I can bring that railing back this way. I'm just doing this real quick and rough here so you can see what's happening there. So I have that railing in there, it's in here, so it looks like there's some instruments. He's got this tank, he's got the cannon, maybe there's another large box shape, you know, coming back here. So all this is upper storage. And then I get down below here and I could keep that, let's sort of eyeball it, keep that same work shelf. And you see how cool it is just putting a railing on something? It makes it look important, you know, and it separates part of that level. Even I like what he gave me that idea because it already has that happening here. So after I get this drawn in, part of me then I wanted to come over here and just say, oh, okay, cool, let's maybe put some boxes here. So maybe it's like, since it's military base, maybe it's small arms or, you know, something else, maybe another box shape in here, sort of overlapping part of that. And then I like the idea that he already had here. What if I bring some light stairs from here and I bring them a little staircase down like this to about there. Maybe there's a little rail, maybe there's, you know, a little walkway that comes down here. Maybe that walkway, part of it goes, oops, I didn't get a line from that. Maybe that walkway curves, maybe it goes around this way. Now, he has a lot of these. One of my concerns in this composition, too, was before I put that in, Mark, do you notice some of the verticals you have here? The heavy verticals there, and there. So I thought about, those are really powerful. They give us that warehouse feel, but then I also thought about breaking them. So by putting this in, I now, compositionally, I have this cool ceiling shape with this railing. It's now going horizontal, affecting that, right? So to break this over here, what if when this comes up about right here, what if this extends over? Like what if this beam actually comes over here and then part of it like extends over and then goes vertical to like, does that make sense? You branch it over a little bit, then maybe when we get over here, there's another walkway up higher, overlapping part of this. So if I have another walkway here, and I add some thickness to this, maybe I put a little edge support and I add more railing here. That's going to hit right on the line, so I'm going to shrink it a little bit. So I'm still keeping all the elements that he had, and now I'm just wanting to add, oops, another like interior shape that's got boxes in it, some other goodies with these big support beams. Actually, if you wanted to compositionally, Mark, if you were to put a support beam on the outside of this like that, see that's going to push this back into the frame a little bit. That could be pretty cool. And this could act as another one there, might pull us off, but then maybe when I come over here, I can throw another, you know, something at an angle that comes here. I don't know. Maybe there's a little support beam that comes off and then angles down here. Why not? Like that. So that way we come back into the composition. This way we come back to here. Does that make sense? And then that flows us back in. And then you have a walkway that goes there. You have this other walkway that's sort of over here. And then you have this other upper walkway of the tank. So I'm just sort of going off in visual read wise. This is what I'm trying to get at is like, here's, let me go to red. It's easier to see. If we start breaking up his composition, like here's one major mass, right? We look over there and then here's sort of like, and this is actually tied to that. It's one grouping. Here's number two. And then maybe back in here, this is like a light 3, and then there's a little bit of light detail in the back. So we're up to like 3 main groupings, and I haven't talked about that barely in this class, but I do talk about it in my prop design in one of my other classes. It's more of an advanced topic, but it's groupings. The way that the brain works is we need to see things in groups. If Mark were to draw this with too many boxes everywhere and there'd be too many separate items, there'd be too much detail, things would look like they're floating, it'd be super duper busy, and the composition wouldn't really work. So when I can mass things into little groupings like 1, 2, 3, and then maybe something else on the side, it's a little bit easier to see part of the read. In fact, gosh, when I even get up to here, I almost want to just come over and just put a cool, what if there's a side angle support like that? You know what I mean? It's cool having these angles that tie in, and then they come down, and then how we have, maybe this just needs to be another beam in front of us. It just goes across the composition like that. Like it's a support beam, or, you know what I mean? Just having fun trying to break up some of those straight angles and introduce some other offset angles. Okay? All right, cool. So that looks like a lot of fun there. And talked about that guy, right? We used him. You know, and this is great too. I mean, that's also, I didn't use this one yet, did I? God, there's so many options. These are all, they're very strong in the way that you can use them. In fact, what if I take this guy? I love that he's already doing it. Do you see how cool the stairs are right there? The stairs that go up, we have a second, we have a third level. Okay, let me copy that. Let me go back to this image, and let me adjust the canvas size again. Okay. Actually, a sheet, I can just stretch it like that, and it'll hit almost the same vanishing point. See how that sort of fits in there? Blend that in a little bit. There it is. Boom. So another version of it. And I like the other foreground. That's why I put it in the paste memory. Because I want to see if we could put it behind this. Where your tank is right here. Just placing another filler of boxes or something on the side to see what it would look like. That's a minor thing to me, but I don't know. I sort of like the tank. This other vehicle back here that feels like a van or a truck feels too large in comparison to the tank, because tanks are huge. So maybe that's why in my mind I want to block it a little bit, but I'm trying to match up your girders here, get that over. And then the one thing I think that could be really cool on this, let me zoom in a little bit more, is what if you, on this tiered level right here, what if you brought it over a little bit more? Like, what I mean by that is, what if you took this, brought this out a little bit more? What if you brought that one out a teeny bit more, and then brought this one out a little bit more? And get vanishing points about right there. Yep. Makes sense? I'm trying to break it from being so straight lined right there, and by bringing out one tier just a little bit more past the other. What's really cool is then you could put these nice arch supports in the middle like that. That'll help push you back down to the composition. See what that does already?
Is that when you're pushing that out? Is it like a hexagon or something?
No, it's just extending this lip out.
Okay.
And then I'm just, where that would have ended here, I'm just putting a curve on to support it. You know? And then when you get down to here, heck, you could even bring down another, could be another curve support or something that goes back down and supports part of that structure down below. Actually, you don't have to do that. It actually works fine the way that it is. There, and see how you have all that other stuff there? That's a really attractive composition because, you know, you're down here, we go up the stairs, you can really read these stairs very well. You go up here, you know, and then once you get up here, you sort of walk down a little bit, and you come down to whatever is your focal point right there. You have nice directional lines, you have some good visual weight. With what's here, you have this nice foreground elements of boxes, crates. You got another tank here on this other element here that ties into that foreground, right? And then you have all that great information in the back there. So since I merged two of them, the scale might be a teeny bit off, but you understand where I'm going with it, right? In terms of a thumbnail, I've now vamped open the thumbnail quite a bit, and there's a lot more information inside it. Okay? Cool. Let me see what else I had. Did those. Marks. Got a couple more images here from somebody. Let me see if I can grab them and pull them up really quick. You know what? I just realized it's about that time, 2 o'clock, where I need to render this demo so I can hand it out to you guys. So I think I'll just quit right there. I'm sorry if were these images here? Anyone? Is that yours?
Yeah.
So look, I want to show you how nice this is. That I'll just quickly go over it, Rosie, so you can get a good idea. It's just, you have little adjustments in there, like, you know, look, if you get in here and get a nice support beam and structure going through here, right? Get that other.
Yeah, I'm actually working on that.
Yeah, and then look, you get that ceiling element. And now here's something cool too. If you brought your ceiling up a little like this, you could create a really like powerful ceiling feel to it. And then you're not just having all that detail below. So then you have these cross beams sort of going across. And then you could even decide, you know, maybe there's, let me get if I had a center beam in there. You know what I mean? You could just keep playing with it. Maybe have a couple rows coming like that. Maybe there's one in the middle. Then one sort of, I could have spaced those out a little bit better. I'm just drawing really quick. So look, just by doing that immediately, you add a lot more detail to part of the piece in terms of the view, right? And what you're going for. And then you still have, I mean, your VP's there. You still have the ability to pull your frame out way over to the right and add a couple little elements. I mean, you have a couple boxes that go here. Imagine if I come over here and if I, oops, sorry, I'm on one layer. So I'll just draw it out. If I pulled that frame out like that, you could actually come over and bring the boxes even up a little bit more. See, like that? Yeah. Tie them all the way into part of the foreground. And then boom, that creates a lot more depth in your piece. Okay? The other thing too is you have this really nice wide open area here. Look at what you can do for lights. You can drop a couple lines down like that, and then come over here and just sort of draw. I'm going to eyeball it real quick. Imagine that's a light system there, here, and there. And then you have these hanging lights. It adds a lot more depth to the room, right? You have all kinds of little elements to put in there. So, yeah, that's all I was going to talk about was your boxes look fine. Your shapes are there. But don't be afraid to push the boxes up a little bit, make this, overlap. What if that box goes all the way up to here and overlaps that back wall? Makes it look important. It changes the scale and the feel of the room, okay? What if there was,
I did put like a safety, I was thinking put it like a safety walkway, when you,
what if we had a upstairs office here with a support, and this edge that goes up, you might see like the boss's office here, like looking down. Does that make sense? You could have that where it's on top of this beam, So now you add this other little secondary layer, I put the window in the wrong spot, but that's okay. Just drawing real quick. You could have a little railing here on that, and maybe somewhere over here we see this draw what's just a wedge. Figure out how the stairs would be. So we just go like that and make it look like there's little stairs, a bit of railing that comes down. So now you have a place in the back. You have all these other elements there. You see how it starts to weigh itself out? Okay? All right. Good work. Image. Whose sketch was this one? Is it, okay. Again, it's a nice sketch. What you have these really nice, the reeds around the props are great. I mean, this right here, that's a great little reed. So on here, I might just, I don't know, you already have the little air vents up there, which are cool, like the little ducting. I like part of the window. I might put a little bit more detail on that window to makes it look a little larger if there's a couple more split sections in it, right? I think it'd be great for, you can hang something off the wall. You can put another shelf. You can put a walkway in there. You can put a door in the back, Some of those other little details that might indicate scale. You might have this be shipping and receiving. Sometimes these metal drawer roll-ups have this like overhang. So there might be something over here. And then, there might be a smaller door here. Indicates that that's exit. There might be some type of trim detail that goes across part of the piece. The upper could have some type of old steel planking that goes across. You could take an office right here. You can extend a platform off the edge right here. Or a shelf. So let's say that was, maybe instead of an office, it was some type of shelving system for storage or boxes, right? Uh-oh, coffee's ready. I hate that dumb thing. I don't even know why it does it. I'm just sitting here, whatever. Stupid Windows. So I'm just looking for things to push or pull, or add in. Love overlapping, establishing other groupings together. There, do you see I just widen it a little bit, put a couple little things, pulled the shelf out. It's changing the way the environment's working, right? Here, you have this nice flow over here, but here, see how it's sort of dead right there? So just look at that and you know that if you had boxes or something that curves you back into the composition, so you could just, a couple basic things, you can start stacking some boxes here, that come back over, that overlap. And then if you wanted to, you could, gosh, there's so many things. What if there was an overhang in front of you that actually came down a little bit? So maybe there's a walkway that recedes like this. Maybe the walkway actually goes to about here. And then look, I can bring the walkway this way towards your VP. And then I can put maybe there's a large support beam for this guy right here. Maybe there's another one that comes right behind that box, like that. And then maybe in the back here, they're a little bit smaller. See that? Just pulled something in the front, brought it down. Already had all these other box shapes in here. Look really nice. Okay? See how it just filled together? Just adding a couple little elements and just makes it feel like it's a real room that's being used, We just, when we start drawing, sometimes we just get in this habit of just putting one center line and doing the same thing. You got to realize people add on to buildings. You drew a room, pretend they added on an office, pretend they added on a giant warehouse door to, increase sales or whatever else, lights, whatever it might be, another window, Heck, speaking of the window, you had that nice window that was right here, right? It looks sort of nice, right? That's right in there. What if you decide to come back and then in the back here, decide to put two more large style windows in here? And even though they're not symmetrical to the garage door, it doesn't matter. Not everything in the world is based off of symmetry. Okay? Cool. All right. Have fun. I'm going to wrap it up.